Greetings, Quester, and welcome to the Quest Report with Matt and Richard.
So on this episode of the Quest Report, Richard and myself wanted to talk about something that we'd been to recently, which was the UK Games Expo 2017.
Yeah, so it's more like a normal quest we went on. We actually went somewhere this time.
We went somewhere, we did some things, we played some things, we saw some things.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, actually. I was looking forward to the playing of games. Because obviously we get to play games quite a lot here, but we don't get that much time to just really spend a day or something and without kind of interruptions and being able to just play one of the really long games. And that's what I was looking forward to. And I thought it'd be interesting to see the expo and see what it was like. But actually I really enjoyed the expo as well. It reminded me a lot of Comic-Con, but a little bit more, because it was just about the one particular thing, as in the board games most of all. It just seemed people were a bit more into it. Yeah. And it's just a bit of a nicer thing in some ways, because Comic-Con was more like memorabilia and stuff, like getting things for yourself, like for your collection and things, on there, advertising films and stuff. Whereas it's kind of groups of friends going around in the expo. It's like people were going around to find games to play with their friends, which I think is a much nicer aspect.
It was definitely more of a social element to it than the I don't want to say the commercial side of Comic-Con, but as you say, when you go around there's just stalls with merchandise everywhere, aren't there? Whereas at the Games Expo, you go there's plenty of stalls there selling games and selling various game accessories and things like that, and we picked up a few bits while we were there, didn't we? But at the same time, there is enormous areas that are just devoted to people playing games. It's just tables where you can go and get a game going, and there's a games library there.
That was good.
Thirsty Meeples were looking after, I believe.
Yeah.
But we spent pretty much all our time in Hall 1, didn't we, at the NEC? In Hall 3.
Yeah, there was another one.
There was another one which we actually never got around to, and it was just purely tables for people playing games.
Yeah. Well, we had the hotel for that, didn't we? So
yeah. We just sort of wandered around. We really did have a good time though, and there was a lot going on. What amazed me was how many stalls there were just selling dice.
Yeah, I liked that one that had normal dice, and then really, really tiny dice, and then really, really big dice.
Massive D20s.
Yeah, that was cool.
I mean, there was so many stalls to look at, and it wasn't all games, was it? Because there was some. I say it wasn't games, but it was RPG books. There were a lot of places selling RPG books. There was.
Just makes it sound like you don't think they're games. But
they are, but I mean they're not sort of board games. They're RPGs, and I love RPGs.
Yeah, I do.
But it was great going around seeing all the different RPG bookstores.
Yeah, some of those look really interesting. Maybe want to be a GM. Maybe start thinking of stories.
Yeah. And there was games that you could go and demo.
Yeah, that was really good.
We did one of those, didn't we? We did a look at a few, but the one that really stood out to me was a game we played called Legends Untold.
Yes, yeah, that was really good, because we saw that on the Saturday, didn't we?
Yeah, and we went back to it on the Sunday morning.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I was looking forward to that. That was the one thing I wanted to do on the Sunday. Make sure we got there and got a table to be able to have a go at Legends Untold, and yeah, it was really good. It
was strange as well, wasn't it? Because we kind of sat down. We thought it was just going to be us, but then we played in a 4-player group with a couple that were there that we'd not known before. And hello, if you're watching this. Honestly, I can't remember their names.
I think we just went by the names that were on our cards, or the names of the roles that we were playing. So one of them was a student. Well, I remember just thinking that her character was a student, which I thought was quite interesting in a fantasy game.
Yeah, and but there were quite unusual roles. Like you were an evicted noble, I think.
Yes.
I was a forge hand.
Yeah. So, but you didn't.
The other guy was a farm
hand. You
hand.
were going to have, and you didn't. Yeah, you didn't have like the mechanical skill that you needed at one point. but like technically you were like a different role. So
Yeah,
you
I
didn't have
had a hammer, and I had skills that would allow me to mend things. So like if a weapon was broken, I had like bonus points to mending abilities, and I could fix that with my hammer. I had a couple of spears, so I could throw one at range and use
so you
one
had
at melee.
tokens, didn't you? So we knew how many you had, and then after battle, it was just assumed you picked them up again.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? So that was good, because you were the woman that we were playing with. She was an archer, wasn't she?
Yeah.
So, and you had the choice.
Yeah.
You could be melee or ranged. So you guys were like you were chucking spears and she was firing arrows, and it made combat a lot easier. I thought a lot better.
It was a really interesting system. Just to say a little bit about the game, we all had like a character card with a picture of our character on and some stats for them, and then a few different cards. And some of the mechanics of it really interested me, because like, for example, with wounds, instead of just like a normal health system where you take damage, with that, your wounds were the cards you had. You had to turn a card over.
You just chose an ability to lose.
Yeah, or you could be even a weapon, couldn't it, as well?
It could be, yeah.
Which would usually be your last choice, particularly because you'd be taking wounds during battle.
Yeah,
but you could turn those over, and if I think was it 3 and you were considered knocked out or something like that, or maybe was it just 3, or was it just because we had that many cards?
I don't know. We only ever got. I took 2 wounds at some point in time, and then we rested. So when you rest, you just use some time, but you all get healed. So, the man that we were playing with, I can't remember what his character was.
He was a farmhand.
He was the farmhand. That's it. So he was wounded, but we didn't rest then.
Yeah,
we thought
it uses the same amount of time to rest.
Yeah,
and heals all wounds.
We all have to rest as well, so we might as well. So we waited till I was wounded as well, and then we rested and healed both. So.
And there were some really interesting things like that mechanic, the way that the time worked and the resting, the way that the wounds worked. I mean, the actual attacks were resolved through dice, but even that was quite interesting, because you got you'd roll 3 dice and apply your result to decide what happened, whether you got a hit, whether you pushed the character back.
Yeah.
What was interesting though was that you if you were engaged in combat, the other characters didn't attack you.
No, it was just you rolled low.
If you rolled badly, then that was considered their counter attack or parry and thrust sort of thing.
That was interesting.
That was really, really interesting way of doing battle to me.
It seemed like it's an RPG that had enough immersion, I thought. So I did feel like we were actually making decisions and we were on this adventure, but it was so scaled down.
Yeah.
So it was so easy to do. Like, partly there was a guy helping us do it, but it's all the maps are on quite small cards with enough detail on them.
And when you go through, you had to connect them, didn't you?
Yes, and you kind of choose which way you go, but then you choose which side to connect. You had to match the light there, didn't you?
You did, yeah. So if you're going out of a cave or into a cave, you'd had it to give you kind of how light that was, and you would then take the next location card and have to match up the most suitable lighting to the so it wasn't just, well, this is where I want to come out. As Richard's saying, you had to kind of match them up. That again was an interesting mechanic.
Yeah, and that kind of determines how easy you are to be seen as you go into the new place, isn't it? So if you've just gone through the darkness, there's a very high chance that you'll be able to see any enemies in the new place before they see you. But you had to roll for that, didn't you?
Yeah.
So Matt was being the scout each time. So
I had to roll and to see what happens.
You got all good rolls for that, didn't you? So we were always on high alert when we went through. So that was good.
What did you think? Because they had a mechanic there. So the games were timed.
Yeah.
And the way that they were timed was you had so many event cards, didn't you, that would make a deck. And I think it was 4. There was 4 different event cards. And they're all face down. And you spend a time by taking the top card off and putting it to the side.
That's
and then when you get down to
it?
we had to keep doing that. It wasn't just for when we rest certain things trigger time, didn't they, as they move from locations.
There's a whole bunch of stuff that you do when you enter a place that doesn't cost time because it's on the card already.
It's only certain actions that then cost time.
Yeah. It's like decisions you make, so you always decide to burn time. That's what the guy kept saying. So.
But the way that works is, say you would take the top one and move it over until you got to the bottom one, then you turn that over, and that would be like an event or something.
That was the event.
And you would then have to go through that and fulfill whatever
we got attacked
events
by
were.
bats on one of them.
Yeah. But then you took that card out, didn't you? And so that meant that then the next time you're going through the deck, there was just 3.
So
but then you were doing
time before the next event.
Yeah, and then until eventually you get down to there's just 1 card. That's the event, and once that's gone, the game's over.
Well, yeah. And then you've got 1 more. It's kind of not over, but when you would get to a time when you're going to burn time, you can't do it, so the game's over. Yeah. Because we did quite a few things with no cards left, didn't we? we were still fighting the last boss, weren't we, and stuff like that. So.
And we did pretty well, and some of it was quite pleasing that the chap that was running the demo said to us, that some of the things that had been done in that game, we were the only team that had managed to do.
Actually decided, because I was quite pleased. I found some candles at the start, didn't I? Because I climbed up the cliff to loot this chest or something, and I found some candles, and then it ended up being useful in the next room. So we could actually exhaust the candles to make it a light source, and I think that scared away something or other. So that helped. We were sneaking past things a bit too easily. I think we got the mechanic a little bit wrong, because then another guy came over and clarified, didn't he? So we sneaked past some goblins, but we didn't roll for it.
No, I think we sneaked past them because my scout roll had been quite high, and they were drunk.
So
because they were drunk, that meant that we could sneak past without a combat. Had they been higher level goblins and not drunken goblins,
and if we
wouldn't
have
had
roll,
then we would have had to fight them because we'd have disturbed them.
Oh, that's alright, yeah. So you can't just sneak past loads of stuff.
But I think what you said earlier kind of summed it up in a lot of ways, because you made the point that it was like scaled down.
That's what I liked about it. It was
but it didn't feel scaled down. It was scaled down in the sense of we had our character cards and the various cards that we were using, and it was scaled down in the sense that rather than having like a big board, we were using these locations and building this little map with these cards. But it felt like it was a full-on adventure.
It felt like all the best bits of questing, but without the housekeeping stuff you have to do partway through each turn.
It didn't feel like there was loads of things we had to keep account of. It didn't feel like there was any particularly complicated rules.
It was basically cards and dice, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we were doing a proper adventure.
And they all basically fit into a small box. And I think I said to you at the time that I could imagine taking that game with me when I was going on like a holiday or away for a few nights. Because you could even play that game solo just by taking a couple of characters, because you don't need a GM for it. Because the deck and the decks themselves dictate what happens.
Shuffle the cards and that's it. I mean, we were actually doing an actual scenario, weren't we, where there was meant to be a lost merchant or something. I'm not sure if that was just for the demo, because the guy had the cards in a particular order, didn't he? Like, normally they would be shuffled, but he wanted to make sure that we experienced certain aspects of the game. So
in like a normal game, there might have been more random enemies, more battling going on, but it meant that we could actually play through a little bit of a story and get the various aspects of the game understood. And I actually thought that was probably, out of all the various games that we saw, I would say that would be my number 1 game from the expo. As it was a game that I'd backed on Kickstarter.
That's part of what I liked. That was what part made it so relaxing to just play it, because I didn't feel like they were selling it to us because you'd already bought it. Basically, they were just showing us how it works, and I thought it was really nice. I
said to the guy, one of the guys at the store, that it was really interesting for me to be able to play it, because when I saw it on Kickstarter, it felt like they were saying the game was going to do so much, and yet it seemed like there was so little to it that it didn't really convince me of how it was going to do all these things, how it was going to generate a full campaign, how it was going to give us this real adventure feeling when it was just a few cards and some dice. And it really, really impressed me how much they were able to do without miniatures and big campaign quest books and without a GM. And I just feel that really is, the game that I most enjoyed, and I am really looking forward to getting come through. And the game itself is really cheap. I mean, I paid I think a little bit more because I got it with an expansion, and there's some booster packs I think you can get separately, which are in the original Kickstarter stuff as well. But I think you can get everything for the game for about £50. But if you just want the base game, which is what we were playing, or part of what we were playing rather, I think you can get that for like £20-25.
That is well worth it, I thought, because when we were playing it, I thought I'd quite like to get this as well. But normally I don't think that, because if you get the game, then I'll just play it with you and Heather. So, but I thought I could actually quite easily do little adventures with other people quite easily, and it seemed like something that people would learn to play pretty quick.
And I think I could probably quite enjoy having a few rounds of it solo even. So yeah, that was one of the highlights for me. There was other games we looked at. One was called Far Cry. There was a game called Far Cry that we looked at. I think I looked at it more than you did. I think you were looking at another game at the time.
Okay.
But it's a combat game. There are miniatures in it. Your different mechs and things.
You sure it was Far Cry?
But it was called Far Cry, and you had a map. And I remember saying to the guy, it was Lewis Shaw from Braincrack Games who was showing it to me. I remember saying to him at the time that it kind of reminded me a little bit of like a sci-fi version of Summoner Wars.
Oh, I remember that. I remember it now. Yeah, because you have you have little cards, so you don't know what the miniature is.
Yeah, because the card goes face down as you put it on, and you can when you turn it over, then replace it with your miniature. But it can be things moving around in stealth mode.
Right.
So it's it really interested me, the idea of being able to move my army around without someone else knowing, but at the same time trying to take account and trying to work out what that guy's up to, what that guy's going to do,
so
what armies he's got out, and then when you turn them over and you do battle. It did really interest me, and
so they just detect that there's a unit there, but they don't know what it is. Yeah,
I looked it up when I got back, because I mean, it is still available to pre-order. Right. I think it's not out till the fourth quarter of 2017, but it's another one that I thought, you know what, I probably would be interested in getting this, because I didn't get to play it, I just got to look at it and to talk about the game. But it is one that I could quite easily imagine myself enjoying, because I do like Summoner Wars, because it's simplicity, and it seemed like it had a lot of that mechanical simplicity of Summoner Wars, but it had a lot more depth to the game, particularly with the various stats of the units, the fact that you can move around hidden, that hidden movement factor, and I like hidden movement games.
Stratego? Remember we played that, and I know it's not like that, but that's got hidden stuff, hasn't it? You don't know what units things are.
Yeah, so I see what you mean. It's got that sort of element to it. And it was another game and the miniatures themselves were very good quality. I think it's the first game that company's done with miniatures, but they seem to have done a good job of it. So if you want to have a look at that pre-ordering, go to store.braincrackgames.com. Make sure there's one left for me so I can get a copy of it myself when I've got some cash, because I'm kind of spent up after the expo. Okay. But yeah, that was definitely one that I would say to look forward to. But then there were other things as well, because it wasn't just about the games. There was a social element to it. So we had a really great time together. We met up with Ryan and Whittam from London as well, didn't we? We got to play some 4-player games.
Yeah, so that was who we were playing the games with, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mostly.
But I mean, there's just a really great social aspect to that. I mean, we arrived at a hotel on the Thursday, me and you. And we went down to the bar just to go down and grab a drink, and we got invited to go over and play Colt Express.
We played a few games of that.
With a guy called Gary who was there with his son. So Gary and Jaden, if you're watching this, hi.
It's Hayden. You kept saying Jaden.
Did I keep calling him Jaden? And his name was Hayden.
Yeah, his name's Hayden.
Oh, sorry, Hayden.
That's why I kept shooting you in the game.
Well, he did shoot me a lot in Colt Express, and I wondered why.
Yeah. But yeah, Colt Express was a really good game, wasn't it? I thought. Yeah.
So we'd never played that, had we? I mean, it's quite a well-known gateway game, but it was just one that I'd never got around to playing, and neither had you.
We played the base game, and then we played the version that's got the horse meeples for our little cowboy meeples to go on. that was cool.
What did you think of Colt Express, Richard?
I liked it. I thought it was nicely simple, but ended up being hard to keep track of. Especially when we had the expansion as well. Before that, it wasn't so bad. And the aspect I like of it is the programming.
Yeah.
Which, the normal games that I know programming from are Game of Thrones and Room 25. But they're both very different.
You've played others as well, haven't you? Like Forbidden Stars, that's programming.
Yeah,
we played Star Wars Armada.
Yeah.
That was programming.
I'm just limiting it to ones I can remember doing programming with.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah. But the idea with this one is that we're all putting our cards onto one pile, and then the player who is the first player turns it over, and then you just basically just have to do the moves in order that are coming out. So most of the time you get to see what other people are going to do, don't you? But on each round there'll be certain times when we're in a tunnel, and that's when the cards are face down.
Yeah, and you don't get to see what people put down. Or other times where you have to put 2 down together, and people hide the one at the bottom by putting the one at the top visible.
Yes, yeah, that happens as well. So
I actually really enjoyed it. I mean, one of the things, because I do like programming in games.
Yeah.
But one of the things that you can usually do is right up until like you finish programming, you can look back at what you've already done.
Yes.
So like if you mention room 25, you can check your tokens there, and same with something like Forbidden Stars or Game of Thrones, you can go, hang on a minute, which order did I put down here, and you can have a look. With that, you've purely got to try and remember, because you're all putting them into a central pile, so the second that another card's gone on top, you can't go back and check what's underneath.
No,
which means that sometimes I was there and I was thinking, I've got to put an action down and I don't know what I've already put down.
Yeah. But I like the fact that when we were playing that game, we did just kind of go with it. If you've forgotten what you did, you just have to be surprised when it turns over.
And there were times where there was like an entire round where, because I'd put something down and someone else had put something down that I didn't know, and kind of stuff me up, it meant that I was trying to do, I'd like try and steal something from somebody in the carriage with me, and I was on my own, or I'd be trying to go up to someone that by this point had already gone down, and we're just swapping places and things like that. It was quite chaotic, but it was fun.
You accidentally go to where the sheriff is, and get shot, and that was
because you've got these little cardboard cutouts of like the trains and the carriages, and you're playing cards to move your meeple around and maybe pick up some treasure, or maybe shoot one of the other miscreants, and there's just so much little things going on that, as you say, the programming is really interesting. It's really important to get it in the right order, because if you play it wrong, you can completely stuff yourself up. But I found it a lot more easier to work out what I was going to do and plan for what everyone else was going to do when it was the base game. Once we went into, I think the first 2 games we played, it was a base game, and I got quite a big score at the end. But then we went on to the one with the expansion, which was the carriage and the horses and everything.
There was a carriage as well with a shotgun guy on top.
Yeah, and at that one, I was so, I don't know, I just couldn't seem to get my head around the extra aspect of having that carriage and people being able to jump on a horse and move 3 carriages, and and it just, I think I had like an abysmally low score by the end, because there was a couple of times where I was programming actions and everything I programmed went wrong, and so I ended up with like a couple of rounds where I literally did nothing. That's how it goes, and that's fun. That's the chaotic element to it, and I enjoyed it.
I liked the bullet cards we had, so I thought that was quite thematic, because I had like 6 guns, and so you had 6 bullets in your guns, and that was cards. So you had this little deck of cards that starts with 6 bullets on it, and if you shoot someone, you basically give them that card, and basically, so you're just giving them a bullet, basically, and it just goes into their deck. It's a little bit of a deck builder, isn't it? But you're building it with, you start out where you've got all good cards, and then you end up with these useless bullet cards, so you can just draw a load of cards, and they'd be like, if you've been shot a few times, you could end up just having bullets. And I thought that was quite a good aspect, because it wasn't terrible getting shot, but it just made future rounds more annoying.
So that was another enjoyable game we played there. There was one of the things at the expo as well that was nice was the cosplayers. There was a lot of cosplayers going around. We got to meet a number of them. We got to have some pictures taken with them.
Yeah, there was a little corner that was like for cosplay.
It's like an event stage, wasn't it? And they had a lot of cosplay events and skits going on there. Little comedy performances that some of the cosplay characters were doing.
I like Ramsey with Reek. He was
Bolton.
funny. Yeah. And just that little show that they did, where they all kind of went across. I mean, we just watched that on the Friday, wasn't it?
We saw that on the Friday, and we watched them again, I think, in one of the... Was it the Saturday? Cause I remember I think it was a Saturday, we were queuing to get into the Bring and Buy, and there was an enormous queue, and it took us ages to go through, but we were entertained because there was little skits going on and stuff still at the
people still doing
cosplay stage.
stuff.
So we just were watching that while queuing to get into the Bring and Buy, which was just ideal, really. But yeah, there was a lot going off in that corner, and that's where a lot of the cosplayers seem to hang around and stuff if you wanted to meet and have pictures taken.
But they were kind of advertising the cosplay stuff in a way. But when we went round it seemed like the stuff wasn't actually for sale. It was.
Was it? There was like there was an area that was behind in the same area as the events. It was kind of between the events area and the Bring and Buy.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff was for sale. They were selling. There was like a table with a few things, so you could get like a steampunked R2D2, which just looked really cool. But
not
it was
cosplay. I'm just talking about the cosplay stuff.
Oh yeah, well they had some of the props that were there. I think were for sale, but most of them I think were just like displaying the things that they've made and stuff like that. And I actually quite like looking at that. I mean, there was some pretty interesting stuff. Like there was a Mandalorian sniper rifle there, and some
that
various...
had a harpoon in it. That's good. Yeah,
and that was interesting. And I think also a lot of the cosplayers were using that as a place to organise like the cosplay events, and I think they were going there to sort of do any little repairs they needed to do to the cosplay and stuff. But you were welcome to sort of go in there, have a picture taken, and look at the various props. And it was basically like a props display, the area that was being used for this. And some of the stuff there, as I say, was made to an incredibly high quality. So that was fun to go and wander around. I met Tabitha Leons, who's a cosplayer that I like.
She was being Captain Nimue.
Yeah, from Wild West Exodus. So
they were advertising that for the whole thing, weren't they?
Yeah, it was. There were banners all around for it, wasn't it? It was like a Wild West game that has steampunk elements, science fiction elements. There's aliens
so she was being
in the Wild West.
Wasn't she? So
yeah, she's a professional cosplayer.
Paid for that, but there was lots of people just who dressed up as characters they liked, and. Yeah, there was a few Final Fantasy people, and there's a Skyrim guy, which was cool, but I never got to get a picture with him.
No, we wanted to see him.
I kept seeing him sometimes, but like we were in the queue when we saw him again. Yeah.
We'll find you next year, Skyrim guy.
Yeah.
But there was a lot, and there was some pretty good cosplayers. Some of those cosplayers were very good, and I just love seeing people go around in cosplay, whatever level of talent or ability.
I like the whole idea of cosplay. It just makes it such a nice event.
Well, it's like, I gave to charity because Ariel and Belle asked me to. I mean, there's not many times you asked to donate to charity by Disney princesses, and that's how you collect for charity. And it's just great fun to be able to be somewhere and see beloved childhood characters walking past, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice to just see that other people remember these characters as well. It's not all new things that are coming out that are being pushed. It's like just whatever character you liked, even if it's from a film from years ago, or like one episode of a program from years ago, and just go as that character if you want to. And I felt like doing some more cosplay again. We've done it a few times, haven't we? Like at Comic-Con and stuff. So, but it's been nice to go to a few events without worrying about it and just enjoy the fact that other people are in cosplay, because it is such a hassle going in a costume into, like when I went as Dr. Horrible, it was so the lab coat was fine, but those goggles, just like wearing them on my head the entire time,
but this is one of the things, and I will say this because I was having a conversation after the expo with Richard and with some others about cosplay, and one of our friends made the point that they feel really nervous about approaching a cosplayer and saying hello and asking for a picture. And I made the point to them, well, actually, that's what cosplayers love, because they love to see that you've recognised that character, and asking for a picture with somebody in cosplay is basically the biggest way of saying that's an awesome cosplay that you can do.
I like to call them by the character name as well. Like go up and ask it, like that Alice. I went and asked her, Alice, can I get a photo? She was Alice from Madness Returns, so she was the scary version. Oh, that was a really cool one.
And she did a great face as well for the picture, didn't she? That proper sort of...
she actually looked crazy.
And there was quite a few there, weren't there? I mean, we met Electra. There was a really interesting, for me anyway, Captain Scarlet group.
Yeah, they were, and I like when they got interviewed and they were saying they were looking for more captains and stuff. Like, I imagine if we go to some more events, we might just see more and more.
And I had a picture with Captain Scarlet, Captain Ochre, and Captain Black.
Oh, they were shooting you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good photo.
So there was some very good cosplay, and that's always something I enjoy when I go to these sort of conventions. We got to meet Tom Vassell and Sam Healy as well from the Dice Tower, which was really good. Especially, I don't know if I've already told you this before, but when I was contemplating whether or not to make the Meddlesome Meeples, one of the things I saw was a panel from last year's UK Games Expo, which was Tom Vassell from the Dice Tower, Rodney from Watch It Played. Right. You remember Rodney, everyone's favourite Canadian rules explainer? Oh
yeah, he does it in a really smiley way.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy. And Jamie from the Secret Cabal, and they did a panel talking about content creation and what sort of things to think about when you're starting whether it's a blog or a podcast or a YouTube channel or anything like that. And it was a really good panel, and it gave me some extra impetus to start the Meddlesome Meeples, because I was already thinking about it at the time but wasn't sure about a few things, and so it was quite nice to actually get to meet Tom Vassell and talk to him about some of those things that he talked about on that panel. So that was nice for me. And Sam Healy was such a nice guy, and his number one game's Twilight Imperium, so we got to talk about how we played Twilight Imperium with him. Yeah,
because we'd all just had 2 days of playing that, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah. And I can't wait to play Twilight Imperium another time. We played Twilight Imperium. We actually, in the hotel room, one of the guys in our group brought 2 folding tables. Yeah. So we had to move the third bed out of the way, set up these 2 massive folding tables between my bed and Richard's bed. And we started playing on the Thursday night and then went back to it on the Friday night. But it just made you'd wake up in the night with this light hitting on our Empire in the middle of the room.
Yeah, the lights in the room were pretty weird, and we could we could actually leave one tiny light on just pointing at Twilight Imperium. So we could actually see our empires in the night. It was just, it's not often you can just sleep next to your space empire.
So that was fun. As I say, there was just so much. I mean, obviously we have too much to talk about on one podcast, really. But I would say it would be good to be planning for next year if you're wanting to attend. I am planning to attend. It's reached the status of being the 3rd biggest tabletop convention in the world.
How many are there?
Loads.
Okay, that's all right then.
Loads.
It's not just 3, everybody.
Yeah. It's not just a nice way of saying it comes last. It is enough. And I would say this because I'm going to ask Richard in a minute what he would say to anybody thinking about going to the expo. But before I do that, I will say this. The people that are working at the expo, so the guys in the yellow shirts that are going around looking after everybody, all of those people are volunteers. They're not paid. They're doing it for the love of games, for the love of the convention. So if you have to ask any of them for help with anything or ask for any directions, if any of them make any requests to you, please work along with them, and please thank them for what they're doing, because if it wasn't for these guys, we wouldn't have this amazing event to go to. And it is truly an amazing event. I absolutely loved it. And it's these guys and their hard work and volunteer work, and they're there before we are on the Friday. They're there on the Thursday, and I think some cases they have to be there Wednesday to start getting things set up. So it is a huge task that they do for free. So be nice to them and thank them, and if you can, buy them a beer. So Richard,
they're going to be drunk now.
Thinking about what we did at this expo and what we experienced there, what advice would you give to anybody that was thinking about going next year?
Hard to give away the stuff that I want to do next year because otherwise my stuff might not work. But no,
he's not going to reveal his fiendish plans in full.
Yeah, not my fiendish plans. But if you want to go to the Bring and Buy and you are not bringing a game, if you just want to go and have a look round, you don't have to queue up with everybody, because we did for a while, didn't we? We weren't bringing games to it, so we actually kind of wasted a bit of time in the morning. Although I don't know if that kind of held us back too much, because we was just relaxing. But there is like the cash only line, So that's one thing. You can just kind of go straight in. Though
That's
on the
a very good
Sunday,
point.
the cash-only line was the long line, wasn't there? Because everybody already bought their games. So
if you're there on the Friday morning, make sure you're in the right queue. I mean, we how long were we queuing? About 20 minutes before we realised that we didn't have to be in that queue. And we're thinking, why is everybody carrying all these games in here?
Yeah, but we kind of went off to find that girl who was Yuna. We went off and got some photos with some cosplayers while Ryan and Simon were still in the queue. So that was all right. But yeah, that, and also depending who you're going with and how many games they're likely to get, think about space in your car.
Yes.
Because we found it logistically a bit difficult on the last day, and we we managed it, didn't we?
Just.
Okay, just. So what we did was the games that we'd got, because I'd got some as well, which I wasn't really expecting to buy many games when I was there, but I bought a few that looked like really good deals, and so we put a few of the games in the boot of the car, and then we had to take the rest of them to the expo with us because we'd had to check out the hotel, and this was the problem, and that was one of the most difficult walks we've ever done.
That really did feel like a quest.
Basically.
It felt like some sort of death march. I was like dying as I was walking along, thinking, will we ever get to the expo? Or are these games going to kill me?
Yeah, we got awarded a lot of experience for that.
Yeah.
So that's how we leveled up, is by remembering to think about the car space next time. But yeah, so we went and got one of the shop and drop boxes and just put them in there, and then they were safe.
Yeah,
and
we didn't have to carry them round.
Shop and drop was great as well. Make sure you get a shop and drop box, because even if you buy just a few games, you want to be able to wander around and look at the rest of them and just relax and have a drink and just play a few of the games. And if you're looking a few game boxes around, it makes it less fun. So try and get a shop and drop box, because like you're saying about the volunteers, like the people there were really great, and it only costs a couple of pounds to get one of those. So those are the main bits of advice, because I think the rest of it, just by going, you will enjoy it.
I think advice I would give would be, if you can, take maybe a small bottle of water or something with you, because it does get quite warm depending on where you are. Like in the bring and buy, because there were so many bodies around, it does get warm.
You spent more time there than me.
Yeah. Take cash if you can rather than card. Because that way, it's easier to keep control of or keep note of how much you're spending. But for example, in the bring and buy, it is cash only, and I didn't really have a problem with any of the stalls not taking card. I was expecting that some of them, like last year, wouldn't have the readers, but every stall I went to, they did. But even so, you'll need the cash for the bring and buy. There are some good places inside where you can get something to eat and drink. Obviously, some of the prices on there aren't great, but it saves carrying food around with you or whatever. But I would definitely say take a small bottle, and if you can, maybe a small backpack just to put some of your little bits and bobs in. That might be useful. I mean, I had an IKEA bag that I took and filled up as I was going around, but it was a nightmare to carry, wasn't it? Because it just digged in when it was quite bulky, and it digged into your fingers. So next year I might just take a backpack or rucksack or something like that instead.
The guy actually selling bags especially for games, wasn't there? That had compartments in, but just for what you were carrying that day particularly, that wouldn't have really helped.
No,
but I think ordinarily it would help to have something like that.
So there are some things I would definitely say. Wear comfortable shoes, because you're going to be doing a lot of walking.
Yeah, well, I did think ahead and do that. So
yeah. And if you're a guy like me, maybe take some deodorant with you, because you might need to put a little bit on after you've been walking around lugging loads of games all over the place. For everybody else's sake. I didn't feel like I needed a coat or a jumper or anything like that, because it was so warm.
It was very warm,
I would, if I turned up with like a jumper and a coat and hat and everything, I think I would have probably got too hot very quickly.
I think we were very fortunate that one day when we just got back to the hotel and then it started chucking it down.
Yes.
So,
but there is a cloak room there.
Yeah.
Just before,
take a coat.
just outside like the main entrance, there is a cloakroom. So if you think it might rain that particular day and you're not maybe getting on the bus or a taxi back to the car, then you can drop your coat and bag off or whatever at the cloakroom, and they'll look after that there for you. So it is quite a well managed, well looked after event, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to next year now.
And there's different places you can eat. I mean, we went to like a little patisserie place a few times, and we had they did some really nice drinks and had a sandwich there. But there's obviously the typical NEC food markets at the edges, but we tended to go outside and go around to the Weatherspoons for something to eat as well, didn't we?
That was only just outside where the convention was, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that was nice.
I mean, it's not a normal that they do it, but this year, because of certain recent tragic incidents, we did have to have our bags searched as we went through.
That was 1 second.
Yeah, and they were very friendly, because I was thinking, they're going to start tossing stuff out the bag and everything, but it was actually really professionally done, very quickly, very friendly.
Just glance.
Didn't feel like it was intrusive or anything at all.
No, they weren't judging you for what games you were bringing in.
And people there were just happy. I mean, people would just love talking about things that they care about. So, I'd just be at a store looking at a game or something, and the person next to me would say something to me, or I'd say something to them, and we'd just get talking. And it was just a really nice atmosphere, I would say.
Yeah, well, I ended up getting a game because the guy next to me recommended it. So, yeah, and it was a good price. So.
And there was a lot of accessories. I mean, I was hoping to get some more coins, which I didn't really get this time. Cause
we only saw a few of them, didn't we?
Yeah, and I think they seemed to sell out a lot on the first day. But if you wanted dice, you could get as many dice as you could carry, and then some.
I might be getting more dice next year. I think there's a few games I'd like to get next year, after I've enjoyed the games that we've already got. But I think also just getting some of the accessories to just trick out some of the games I've already got. Yeah, I mean that was quite inspiring, seeing like the amount of different accessories and expansions and extra minis and extra dice and sleeves for cards you can get, and alternate boxes for the games.
Yes.
That's amazing. There was people had done these like chests specially designed for certain games. You don't have to keep them in the cardboard box anymore. So if you're going to keep the game forever. That would be.
They were very good if you wanted to get like the expansions and keep everything in one place and together. I mean, one of the other things I found was, as we were going round, was on the Sunday, towards the end of the day, some of the sellers reduced the prices on stuff so that they can, because they'd rather sell it than maybe take it back with them. But cause someone had said to me, if there's anything you particularly want, maybe wait until the Sunday and you might get it cheaper. But of course, then you run the risk of it selling out. So, for example, there was a couple of games on my hit list that I wanted. Yeah. So, like Ethnos and New Angeles, and I didn't get them. I didn't get Yamatai either.
You just picked it up on the last day. I remember you asking a guy for it, and then you picked it up and then didn't get it because from the bring and buy, it was cheaper, wasn't it? So yeah.
But if you do wait, as I say, to the Sunday, then you run the risk. Because I saw a game called Rune Wars. Which we bought, I think it was on the Saturday maybe, from Chaos Cards.
About that one because there's two.
Well, it's kind of strange because there's Rune Wars and there's Rune Wars. There's Rune Wars with it all one word.
You just emphasise.
And then there's Rune Wars that is all one word.
Rune Vars.
And then there's Rune Wars with it, Rune and Wars being separate words.
Yeah.
And they are completely separate games, both made by Fantasy Flight Games. Where it's just a little bit unnecessarily confusing.
It is.
But the one I got was the recent one that came out, and I paid £70 for that. Now, that I thought was a cracking deal because on the internet, the cheapest I could get it from the same company was £10 more, £80. So I was really happy to get it for 70. So then we wandered around. But then on the next day, they'd reduced that price to 65.
Yeah.
Which kind of annoyed me until I went around the corner and saw another seller selling it for 89.
Yeah.
So definitely shop around because some of the new stuff is quite varied in prices because some of the companies are able to do it cheaper. The other thing is that some of the stuff I saw in the bring and buy, I got some fantastic deals, but some people were definitely being overly optimistic with their prices. I mean, I saw prices that were in excess of second hand what they were available new in the stalls outside. And in some cases, I mean, we got some cracking deals. I mean, you got Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective for £10 second hand. Someone else was trying to sell the same copy there for, well, not the same copy, but Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective second-hand at £40.
Yeah.
And then there are others where it was new at £30, and it's kind of, you just got to shop around. Don't just pick it up and go, yeah, I'm going this and walk out.
You can kind of tell sometimes what's a good price for something and what's over the top.
And if you are selling something in the bring and buy, make sure that you secure the game, because there were boxes where people had tried to either not organise it properly inside, or they tried to put like expansions and stuff into the main box, and it was bursting. And like you're finding little bits and pieces of components just spread around because it had just burst open, and
some lost pieces.
Yeah,
and meeples.
And that's just tragic.
Yeah.
So definitely make sure if you're selling anything that you make sure it's complete, and if it's not, mark on the box that it's incomplete, because otherwise you're going to end up with a very disappointed gamer.
Yeah, and that would be sad as well.
Yeah, but we thoroughly enjoyed the UK Games Expo, so
we did.
We are recommending that for next year. We're going to be there ourselves.
I'm looking forward to it next year.
We've already booked our hotel room.
Yeah.
And we're very excited about that one already.
Yeah,
so
I look forward to more gaming there.
Yeah, definitely. So if you get the chance, check it out. There are a lot of smaller games conventions through the year, so I might nip to one or two of those just to keep me going until the next expo. But definitely check out some of those gaming conventions.
Yes.
Farewell, Quester. To find out about other productions by the Meddlesome Meeples, then check out our channel or rendezvous with us at meddlesomemeeples.com. Until next time, Quester, farewell, and keep thine axe sharp.